we're going to turn the tables here.
Oh yeah.
We're going to find out a little bit more of your background in the fitness industry. And, when we started this business, our initial mission and goal was to bring more resources from our experience to fitness professionals and, maybe small gym owners. We're partnered with one right now and been very successful in his first year. And really what I think we should focus on just for this episode is how you can either rebuild your membership or maximize and capitalize on your membership base. So with your experience in that, tell us a little bit more of your background, what you did, and, why you're so knowledgeable on this subject.
By the end of the year, this will be 20 years in the fitness industry for me.
Wow.
And if you had asked me before I started, or at any point, let's say like right when I graduated high school, what I was going to do with my life, fitness wasn't even on my radar. I was landscaping. Like that's what I did. I just cut grass and took care of flower beds, and that's pretty much what my main job was. And one day I walked in a gym looking for a part-time job, working the front desk, and walked out with a full-time job and a brand new career, selling membership. And that was in Durham, North Carolina, with a company that's no longer in existence called Fit South. And the GM there took a chance on me. Like I went in and I told him I was looking for a job, and he was like, "I see something in you." That was the first thing he said. He goes, "I see something in you." He called me back in the office and I sat down. Now I am disgusting. Like I just finished like a 10-hour day cutting grass, covered in dirt and grass clippings.
Maybe that's what impressed him.
And I sat down in the office and he was like, "Have you ever sold anything?" Like, well, I mean, I worked at American Eagle for a little bit selling clothes, and I was, pretty successful at that, but that just didn't pay the bills, like that was an okay job part-time. But he was like, "What do you know about fitness?" I said, "Nothing." He goes, "Great. I'll teach you everything you need to know. Can you start Monday?" Yeah, sounds great. So I called my boss, quit my job, started at the gym the next Monday, and turns out I was really good at it. And so I just really took to the atmosphere of the fitness industry, of being in the presence of people who are in a constant pursuit of bettering themselves. And that made me want to better myself. And so that's how my career started. I enjoyed working in multiple facilities and seeing something. I get bored easy. And so it really is the perfect profession for me because it's always changing. At some point I've worked in and managed every possible aspect of a fitness facility. So I've taught group fitness. I've been a personal trainer. I'm a personal trainer now, but I've been one prior. Sold memberships, obviously. Been operations manager, and I carried in the operations of facilities for a good 7 to 8 years straight in my career. And that was operation of the actual facility plus the facilities and maintenance of the facility, which is a totally different animal that a lot of people don't consider. And then I've even moved into, prior to what we're doing now, into a more clinical aspect. And so, and I've seen success in all of those areas and learned so much from so many different people in all of those areas. And I just, am very thankful for everyone that's ever given me the opportunity because, I didn't go to college. Like that wasn't for me. You can't sit me in a classroom and teach me garbage that I don't need to know. I need to learn exactly what I need to learn, not a bunch of fluff bullshit
Theory. Yeah.
that some administrator or bureaucrat somewhere says that I need to know because they get to charge me more tuition for it. That's BS, and I don't buy into that nonsense. And so I've always had trouble in school, but so I always joke, say I'm independently educated. And so because I continue to educate myself. I love like reading and researching and watching videos and but hands-on experience is how I've learned most of what I've learned. I made a lot of mistakes as well. And I learned from those mistakes and continue to try and better myself. And you have to make mistakes. I mean,
And I think those are all like true characteristics of a good fitness professional, is having those experiences and making those mistakes and learning from it and being a constant student.
you have to be constantly evolving, and you have to be, you have to set yourself up around the right people as well. I particularly love creating and building and being able to take something that is struggling and build it back up. That's very challenging for me, and that gives me a lot of satisfaction. I feel like I'm very realistic with my own capabilities and what I bring to the table as well. In that, I don't have all the answers, but I'm a very, and I've always been this way even since I was a child. I'm a very good problem solver, and so I love going into facilities that are failing and finding out why they're failing.
So let's shift it back to, let's say if it's a new gym, new owner of a small gym, and they're really just trying to build their membership base. Where would you start? What would you advise for them to do? Let's say if it's very similar demographic to Rockingham.
Yeah. Okay. So I always start with the system. I believe in the foundation of the system, and this is probably where I differ most from a lot of like individual gym owners. Is I've worked in a lot of big corporations, and I think there's a good balance between the corporate structure and the mom and pop structure, and I think that they are compatible, and I think they can coexist. And so, but I think that in a small facility that's just starting, start with what's going to be your system on board, because when you're new, people will come typically, but are you maximizing the potential for them to be onboarded into your system? And so having a system in place, and I'm not talking about like the software system and how you do that. I'm talking about from the time they walk into the door to the time they sign the contract and pay you money, what does that look like? And especially a lot of mom and pops places or individual gym owners, that is the last thing they think of, because most individual gym owners do it. It's a passion project. Almost always is. I always wanted to own a gym. Something I've always thought about. I've never worked in the fitness industry, and that's okay. That's okay. And that's why we've created what we've created, is because we want to help people like that. But the system of what happens when they first walk in the door till they pay you money is so critical. And when I say it's critical, it's not just you want a membership, sign up, because then you're living in hope. I hope that this person signs up. I'm gonna put it out there, and that's it. Like, okay, so you start with a close. You can't start with the close. You have to build to the close. So what happens when the person walks through the door? Somebody there to greet them. Once they greet them, how do they sign in? Make sure you get that information, because you contact them later. Are you contacting them? Should be. After that, do you tour them through the facility? What's that look like? Usually it's, here's the equipment, here's some cardio. That's not enough. Like, you have to, if Planet Fitness is a box of equipment, right? And I think Planet Fitness has one of the most genius business structures ever. I truly do. Like, I wish I had thought of the concept of cheap membership, large group of people, limited equipment. And I mean, it's just a brilliant structure. But you can't compete with them on price, right? Like, you can't compete with a place like Planet. So if your town has a Planet Fitness and you're a box of equipment that charges a higher rate,
what's going to set you apart?
When you tour them through your facility and you're just showing them equipment, and they've already seen another facility that has equipment, What are you showing them? Nothing. So what does that tour look like? That's going to be the main focus is, and we can get into more specifics if you want to, but like, how does that go? Like, is there a flow to it? Because there should be, because everyone should be doing all of these things the same way. If you have one or two people that are doing all the memberships, maybe it's like the facility we work with is a husband wife. You know, are you guys, do you use the same verbiage? Do you use the same technique? Do you use are you touring the facility in the same direction? Are you talking about things in the same way so that it's presented in one way? And then once you do that, what your price presentation is when you sit them down. You know, my original mentor who hired me straight off street in landscaping clothes, dirty. He was big into the friend business friend, right? So I'm your friend while we're talking. Then it's time to sit down for business. And he used to use his hat. He'd say, he's like, "Hey, how you doing today? Hey, we're going to hang out. Yeah, let me show you the equipment and blah, blah, blah." And he'd tour and blah, blah, blah. Now it's business. Now we're business. And then once you commit, now we're back to friend again.
Yeah.
Right. And so he literally used to use his hat like that. And to explain it to new hires. And so when you sit down to present prices, you know, how are you presenting them? And how, like, what does that look like? Like, do you have multiple options? Not have multiple options? How you present that is so important. And then are you closing? Are you asking for? Because it's easy to put it out there. Hey, you want to buy a membership? That's the worst way to.
Yeah.
Never give a yes or no. But having some kind of tie-in, some kind of tie-down question, some kind of closing statement. Buttons. Yeah, you hit the hot buttons, but you should be doing that on the tour, you know. But then when you sit down to ask for money, you're asking people for money. It's hard to ask for money. Ask any salesperson. The hardest part of their job, getting the people to actually pay you. Everybody's interested, and everybody will be back.
Yeah.
And when the be-back bus comes, we're all going to be filthy stinking rich. When the be-back bus hits the market, we're all going to be filthy stinking rich. But it never comes typically. Every now and then it may drop off a few. But the be-back bus
I remember when I first started.
Coming. Yeah,
I was getting laughed at by my peers and sales.
Yeah.
They're going to be back. They're going to be
back. No, they're not. Because if they don't sign up, and this is just, if they don't sign up in their first time in a gym,
they leave those doors.
They are 65% less likely to ever step foot in that gym again. Yeah. Now, that's not, like I said, that still leaves room for 35%. There's 35% chance they could come back, but they probably won't. But when will that be? Will that be that same month? Will that be next month? Will that be 6 months down the road? You have to find a way when they come through the door. That system, getting them in the door, not in the door, but once they come in the door to giving you money, that is usually where I start. That part of the process. Because that is the most critical to, at the very least, capitalize on every potential walk-in that happens. But you can't depend on just walk-in. Then past that, that's when you start to look at, now how do we get them through the door? Because that's half the battle. But if you don't have that system in place and that process in place from when they come in the door, it's not 100% every time, you're going to miss out on money. Period.
They'll slip right through their fingers.
You're going to miss out on money because if you lose one person here, one person there, and it's easy to go, especially as a new gym owner, well, we're not going to be for everybody. You may not be, but you might. You might be. You might have been something to that person. You might have made that difference for that person if you had presented it in the right way, because it's all about capitalization of that opportunity in that moment. Now, past that, how do we get them through the door? How do we get them in? What makes your facility different?
Or what happens when the new wears off?
Exactly. Because once the new wears off, and because you can't, if you live by the door, you die by the door. If you hope that people come in, you're just going to be waiting on the first quarter of every year. You're going to be waiting on the January, February, March crowd. That's the crowd you're going to be hoping comes by. And slowly, every year, that will slowly dissipate if you don't set something else up. And so, how do you get them through the door to begin with? And that's one of the more difficult questions, because it really makes you look at what you've built in a
Yeah.
facility and say, what makes me different? And a lot of places think that the equipment is what makes them stand out, and it isn't. The equipment is there, and there is good variety of equipment. And for a person like you, you're going to go to the place that has the most variety of equipment. But for the average person, equipment is equipment. And even for people like you and me who need a more diverse selection of equipment, we can make it work.
Can make it work.
We can make it work because we're very inventive and creative in how we need to get the pump that we need. But the average person doesn't know that. They just want to belong. They want to find a place that they fit into that culture. What is your culture? When you tour somebody, are the members encouraging of them signing up? They should be. Because if they're not, if you have that culture of guys that, I don't like it when other people are in here working out and blah blah blah, those aren't the people you really want in your gym generally, because those are the people who run away potential customers, and they should see the success of your business as their success too, because that means you'll be there longer. And a lot of people don't take that into consideration.
What was the average lifespan of a sole proprietorship gym?
On average, any gym usually lasts about 5 to 7 years on average. That's corporations as well. I mean, you usually see a good solid build for about 5 to 7 years, and then you see them sell to somebody else. Sole proprietors can be a little different. They can make it a little longer or a little less. There's a much larger gap because it's so much more difficult to make it with one facility. And you have to work that much harder because a lot of times it is a person that doesn't know the industry. They're just working their ass off to stay afloat parts of the year, and then loving it at the January, February, March.
Yeah,
the New Year's resolution crowd comes in, and so then you have to really think about what your ultimate goal is owning that facility, and what you're going to represent. Why did you do it? You just wanted to own a gym? Did you want to own it for you, or did you want to own a gym?
Or if you saw it as an opportunity to make money, you're going to be hugely mistaken.
Because there's a lot of money to be made, but as an individual gym owner with no experience in the industry, you're probably going to be missing out on thousands of dollars your first few years, just because you're going to make a lot of mistakes to begin with. And a lot of these places, I always recommend trying to get a third party to help you, like trying to find a consultant group to help you to begin. And it's an additional cost up front.
Of course, yeah.
But you're talking about the potential of thousands of dollars going forward, because it's a tall task to open a successful facility, and it takes years to hone in on what you really need, and having somebody that's experienced to be able to look at your demographic and look at your clientele and look at what you have and say, got something. Here's what I recommend you do with that. And here's how I recommend you capitalizing upon that. And sometimes you have to push away from what you thought it would be, but it will be. And that's usually the hardest part for a single facility owner. So you get with people who are like Gold's Gyms franchise owners and big organizations like Lifetime Fitness and Planet Fitness, and they have their own methods of doing things. Like, they know demographics. Like, a Lifetime Fitness is not going to drop one of their facilities in a demographic that doesn't have an average household income of 6 figures or less. It's just not, because that's not what they do. Planet Fitness is looking for population demographics more so than anything else. So, but an individual gym owner opened it usually as a passion project. It's something they've always thought about. And usually, and in my experience, it's usually somewhat selfishly opened it because they wanted to own a gym, their own gym, and have their own rules for working out. And more often than not, and this isn't always the case, but more often than not, people that open it have usually been kicked out of multiple facilities, and they're usually the troublemaker in the facilities, and then they've decided that they're going to do it better, and it's an ego project. And those are the ones that usually spend the most money and lose money overall, because you have to put ego aside. You have to set it aside, because what you want it to be may not be what it will be. Do you want to be successful, or do you want to look successful? Because there's a difference. Because there are a lot of people that go out of their way to look like they're more successful in the industry, and they're not successful at all. They just spend all their money. They're in huge amounts of debt. They've got no end game in sight. They have no method of exit strategy, because sometimes it fails.
And what initially started as a passion project is just them holding on to their pride.
And now it's a burden. Yeah. And now you've got this burden. You've got this huge liability that's just resting on your shoulders. And now you don't have a choice but to care. Yeah. And so it's important that you see your gym facility for what it is. And then that's how you make that decision of how you get people in, your identity based off of everything else. Because if you created a gym and you essentially, let's say you compete with a Planet Fitness in your area, and you've gotten all this equipment, that's what you're advertising. Not going to do it. Sorry. Unless you have the demographics, like you have a completely different, you can have different brands of equipment, but like different selections of equipment or more selection. You have to have the demographic, you have to have the population of lifters like you, bodybuilders, to be able to pull that away. When you're looking at competing on general population membership,
and they're few and far between here in Rockingham.
You're not going to compete with Planet Fitness. You're just not, because they have found the way to make money off of the people that don't come.
That's their model.
Brilliant. It's brilliant. And that's how most gyms function, right? Is off of the people that don't come. But it's a brilliant model, and like, we've got all you need, and they do. Like, they do. They have everything you need, not necessarily everything you want. They have everything you need for a general person that's wanting to work out at the lowest possible price. And so, are you a box of equipment trying to compete with a lower price box of equipment? Because you're going to lose that 10 times out of 10. What makes you different? What makes you different? Because that's what begins to bring people through the door. And when you create that identity, then you can start to advertise that identity. Now, what methods of advertisement work best? That comes, with trial and error usually. My best advice as far as having a strong longevity in a small community is you have to be part of the community. Can't be away from the community. You have to be well respected, have to give back, and you have to have some input into the community to some extent. Like, you can't just say the words and hope it works out. You have to actually be a part of it, and you have to really sacrifice yourself and your time for the community, because people see that.
Yeah.
And when I first moved to Rockingham, that's what made me the most successful in the facility I was in here before we started Fit Fluent X. Is I was very involved in the community, and I wanted to be, and I was part of Rotary, active with the chamber, and going to ribbon cuttings, meeting new business owners, eating at local restaurants and shopping local, and those are things that I think are very important in rural communities, and that's anywhere.
And that had a direct correlation. I witnessed it in really
Yeah.
us maximizing
And
our
I mean,
membership in that facility during that time.
no doubt. And I mean, look at it now. And they're just really struggling now
Yeah.
because the person who came in after me lives 2 counties over. They're not involved. And it's hard to put a footprint in a place when you don't have that identity, because you can be that identity in your gym.
Yeah.
People will support you, and that gives you opportunities to invite people to come into your facility. And there's no better advertising than one-on-one, person-to-person advertising and referrals and stuff like that. And when people respect you and they're like, man, this person really gets out in the community, they really want to make a difference, they're volunteering, they're at all these events, they give to charities, and they support, the fire department and rescue squad and stuff when they do barbecues, and they come buy plates, and they know who you are. That creates the identity for your facility. You create the identity for your facility.
And I was fortunate enough to experience that firsthand during my first internship in Wintersville, right outside of Greenville, when I was in my last semester at ECU. Shout out to Greg Lassiter, but he's been running his own gym for over 30 years straight now.
Yeah.
Successfully, and been able to scale it. Now, franchise it? No, but that was never his goal. He just improved and reinvested back into his facility, his equipment, and like you said, into his community. He was very involved. He's a married man, has had one kid go to UNC Chapel Hill, the other one go to North Carolina State.
Yeah.
He's a proud father, served on as a teacher, PE teacher, and on the school board for a term, and
makes a difference.
Yeah, he was very involved, and that just had a direct correlation to his success. And he was in the gym, he was personal training himself, he was taking on clients even when I was there interning. Had a couple trainers working for him. They paid a rental fee each month. He had his system set in place. I was greeted at the door every day I entered that gym, the front desk attendant. And, he just had a great community support, and that goes a long way.
That is as far as being an individual gym owner, that's almost like the secret, because it's hard to create an identity because there's so many different facilities and so many different corporations that you have to compete with. And you want to create something that makes you different and makes you stand out. And people tend to go to the most cliche thing, usually. Be 24 hours. I don't care what anybody says. Nobody cares. 24-hour facility. It's nice to have a 24-hour facility, but that's not a thing anymore. That's not a differentiator. And so there are a lot of 24-hour facilities. And
you're keeping those lights on and the power on.
You're spending a lot of money for
people.
Not even a couple usually. Not even a couple. It's usually like none. I worked in that facility, Fit South. I worked third shift there for about 6 months at one point, because our third shift guy had a heart attack at work one night, and he ended up going to the hospital. So I ended up having a shift to work that third shift, and between the hours of 10 p.m. and 5 a.m., if one person came in, I'd be surprised. And I was like, they're paying me to sit here in an empty facility with all the lights on, all the TVs on, and just sit here doing nothing. And it was just a sales pitch, 24 hours. Now it's a lot different now because you've got different key tag technologies and stuff like that, so you don't necessarily need the person. But in big cities, I mean, I was in a pretty prominent city, so it was a lot different than being in a smaller town, because had nobody there, people would come in, steal all the TVs. That was just how it went. And so, but what makes you different? And it's usually not 24 hours. It's not the equipment. It's not how clean you are. I mean, cleanliness should be second nature. That's not something that differentiates you. It's not safer. That should be the standard. Clean and safe should be the standard. If you're advertising that you're clean, get out of here with it.
Yeah.
Like, get over yourself. Like, you're grasping at straws at that point. What really makes you different? And usually it's the input into your, it's what gets them through the door. But if you don't have yourself set up once they come in the door, you're missing out on money. Missing out on money.
So to conclude, pretty much to wrap everything up, summarize it, you're not going to beat Planet Fitness.
It's hard.
You're not going to beat Planet Fitness.
The thing is you won't beat Planet Fitness
with that model.
But you can't compete with them.
You can't duplicate
directly.
that.
You can't compete with them directly.
But know your target market.
You can coexist with Planet Fitness, though.
Yeah.
Absolutely can coexist, and you can see great levels of success even with a Planet Fitness in your backyard. But you can never compete head to head with Planet Fitness. Just can't. It is the most secure model in fitness that I've
they're
ever
here to
seen.
stay.
I've never. I wish I had thought of it. I mean, honestly, like, I wish I had thought of it. It's just brilliant, and like, I totally respect the people that came up with that idea and how they run it. I mean, it's just brilliant. It's just, I mean, I applaud them. I mean, it's just an unbelievable model that is second to nobody's in what they do. But if you're opening a gym and you've got a Planet Fitness in your area, know that you can't compete with them head on. You won't win. You'll lose. And but you can coexist with them, and they can help you. That's the most underrated thing, and we'll save that for another podcast. But
there's so much we could talk about.
There's actually a way that Planet Fitness can do you a favor as a gym owner, whether it's a corporation, a franchise, or you're an individual gym owner. Planet Fitness can actually help your business and not just hurt it. But you got to be set up right.
Helped us make a move.
That's right. It definitely did. It definitely did.
But we'll end on that note. So, guys, thanks for tuning in. This is another episode of Fit Foundations. Jonathan, close us out.
All right. Well, make sure you hit that subscribe button and let me know if you have any questions specific to what we were talking about today, and keep an eye out for how to coexist with Planet Fitness in the future.
Yeah.
Y'all take it easy.
Later.